So this was the topic. I think this was like almost 3 months ago. We did discuss this, and it was quite rusty, and I had to go back again to all our notes, and I forgot who gave the points. So I'm presenting the whole thing because I don't know who gave us the answers to some of these questions. Freedom is independence from externals. So freedom is independence from externals. One who is in need of help of another person, thing, or condition is a slave thereof. Perfect freedom is not given to any man on earth, because the very meaning of mortal life is relationship with and dependence on another. The lesser the number of wants, the greater the freedom. Hence, the perfect freedom is absolute desirelessness. It's a short letter Swami had written to his students, and I just found a little cartoon clip on this perfect freedom. Alvin and Hobbes cartoon. Saturday is the best day of the week. No demands at all. Perfect freedom. The whole day stretches before us with unlimited opportunity. And then they decide what better way to appreciate that opportunity than by squandering it all day watching cartoons. So just a little bit of a joke in the beginning. So what are the externals? It is dependence on another person, thing, or condition. It could be the person, thing, or condition we're talking about here could be parents, spouse, children, friends. So one of the members had shared that man is born free, but is always chained to desires and never relies on his capital self, the big self. Attachment to things could be my house, my cars. We even teach children to sort of depend on pillows and blankets. You know, they have little blankies. We teach children to do that, to depend on other things, outside things. Conditions could be certain lifestyle or habits, and it's an inability to adjust to discomforts. Like sometimes it's hot and you feel it's too hot, you can't even stay for a minute in that room, you need to go into an air-conditioned room, or you find it's too much, you can't take the energy in a room, you need to go into a quiet space. I took my 21-year-old niece to Mid Valley the other day, and it was that I didn't realize it was, what was that, Friday, some special sale going on Friday. And she really got into an anxiety and tearing up and all that because she couldn't take the crowd in Mid Valley. And she ran off into that other mall, Garden Mall. She was supposed to spend time there while I went visiting a friend. And I saw her distressed. I had to remain with her, and I hung around there, walking around the mall with her. So this dependence on leads to attachment, and this kind of attachment binds. And it's very difficult to shed this kind of attachment that we make with these people, thing, or that kind of thing. So they can cause mental disturbance, and in some cases, the disturbance gets so bad you need medication, and even medication cannot help sometimes. So people get that attached to all these external things that we get attached to. Emperor Janaka was the perfect example of detachment, who was only dependent on his self. So Swami tells the story of Emperor Janaka and the sage Ashtavakra. Let's see. The sage Ashtavakra was a young boy sage at the time. He came to Janaka's kingdom. He was just passing through the kingdom, and Janaka had sent a message round saying, whoever is among you is a great scholar, a pandit or a mahatma, a maharshi, a sage, anybody, just help me to get the knowledge of the Atma, he said. And but he just not only he wanted to get the knowledge of the Atma, he said, I need to get this knowledge within a matter of moments. It should be, I should receive it like climbing onto my horse. Even while I'm climbing onto my horse, I should have already attained Atma Vidya. Is there such a person? And all his regular pandits in the palace were afraid. They said, oh, it's too difficult a topic. We can't help you. We don't dare to offer the help. And it was at this time that sage Ashtavakra came, and he addressed the king, "My dear king, I'm ready to teach you. I'll enable you to experience this knowledge of the Atma." And so the two of them leave the palace and they go into the forest. Just before entering the forest, Ashtavakra asks Emperor Janaka, "I may be only a boy, but I'm in the position of a teacher, of a guru, and you are an all-powerful emperor, and you are the disciple. Are you prepared to accept this relationship? If you agree, then you have to offer the traditional gift of Guru Dakshina given by a Sishya to a Guru." Janaka replied, "The attainment of God is the most important thing to me, so I'm prepared to give you absolutely anything you want." And then Ashtavakra said, "I don't want any material things from you. All I want is your mind. You must give me your mind." King said, "All right, I offer my mind to you. Up to now, I thought that this was my mind, but from now onwards, it will be yours." Ashtavakra told the king to dismount, and made him sit right in the middle of the road on the entrance to the forest. Inside the forest, he made him sit on the middle of the road. Ashtavakra walked into the forest and sat under a tree, watching the king. The soldiers waited for a long time, and neither the king nor Ashtavakra came back from the forest. The soldiers wanted to find out what happened, so one by one they went looking for him. And they found the king sitting there so silently, so unmovingly, and they tried to call him, and he didn't respond. The horse was right there standing in front of the king. The officers were afraid that Ashtavakra might have exercised some magic spell over the king and made him lose consciousness. So they went to get the prime minister. Prime minister came and said, O king, and still Janaka didn't open his eyes. Prime minister said, "What else to do? Let me get the queen." And so they ran back to the palace, and they found the queen, brought her back to this forest, and the queen came and addressed the king. Rajan, what's happened to you? Why are you not getting up?" King did not stir. Absolutely no response from the king. So, meanwhile, the soldiers had been searching for Ashtavakra, and they found him under the tree, seated peacefully, absolutely calm and serene. So the soldiers caught hold of him and brought him towards the place where the king was. Ashtavakra asked him, "Why are you all so worried? King is safe and everything is all right. And look for yourself what has happened to the king," they said. And until that time, whether the prime minister, the queen, everybody who called him, nothing happened. Now, when Ashtavakra came and spoke to the king, he opened his eyes. "Swami," he said. So, and he said, "The ministers have come, the soldiers have come, and all the others have come from the palace. Why didn't you reply to their entreaties?" Janaka answered, "Thoughts, words, and deeds are associated with the mind, and I offered my mind entirely to you. Therefore, I can use my mind. Before I can use my mind, I need your permission. What authority do I have to speak to anyone or use this mind in any way without your permission or command?" So Ashtavakra declared, "You have attained the state of God realization." Ashtavakra told Janaka to put one foot in the stirrup and get up on the horse. By the time he had climbed up and seated himself on the horse, he was in another dimension. He was he once a person has offered his mind, and with it all his words, deeds, and thoughts, he will not have the authority or the power to perform any actions without the permission of the one to whom he has surrendered. So this is a perfect. He's a perfect example of head in the forest and what is that? Head in the forest and hands in society. So he could be at that level all the time and still continue doing his duty as the king of the realm. So the question one was, how do we attain perfect freedom? So when we have already seen in that article, in that letter just now, freedom is not available to mortals. Mortal life is dependence, is all about dependence and relationships. Absolute desirelessness leads to perfect freedom. Swami says it is not given to any man on earth. So we can talk about freedom as a country, independence from foreign rule, freedom as a society, when you don't respect legislation or parliament or curbs that are placed. That's all freedom people talk about. Freedom as a person, demands of press freedom, demand to create and post as one likes on social media, as seen in the recent TikTok images that was going on about the Gaza war, when actually it wasn't really the Gaza war, it was some other war seen from very long ago. People had taken that and put it up, sending on WhatsApp and everything, claiming it to be the severity of the Gaza war. Then the people use voiceovers of politicians on videos of politicians. Everything we've seen it happening right here in Malaysia. So many of these things are happening. So Swami says it's not next to impossible, never given to man. Reduce the number of wants. Only by putting a ceiling on desire can one hope to gain the desired freedom. Reducing desire is the only way. And to reduce this desire, what must we do? As given by answers in my group during that group for breakout group, keep busy doing one sister said she makes prasad every week for the center, things like that, any kind of things that keeps you occupied in you going on hospital visits. Those with rajasic tendencies, when you have excessive rajas, we need to use it very wisely, otherwise it cripples you. It is adharmic to remain inactive. Reduce tamasic food. Sometimes this tamasic food and devotion together sometimes gives you a desire to get close to God. This desire for closeness leads to mental issues. People are unable to meditate, and then they need to use drugs to help along. And then you find you can't get out of it. It controls your mind. So I had Googled it, a Radio Sai article. During the fight for India's independence, freedom fighter Bal Gangadhar Tilak asserted, "Freedom is our birthright and we shall have it." But Baba asks us, "Oh man, you have been craving for rights, but when are you going to crave for your real birthright?" That is freedom from no rebirth. From this, we can understand that perfect freedom is when all desires, moha, are sublimated. Kshayakara, that means when moksha is attained, when you have sublimated all your desire, moha, you will attain desired freedom. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya is a prayer that we chant. It is to overcome the fear of death, to become Amritam. How do you become Amritam? Without Mritya, without death. That basically to have a ceiling on your desire. So what is independence? To understand this, Baba says independence means independence, dependence on the inner self. This dependence on the inner self is the only way to be truly free. This boosts our self-confidence, and self-confidence leads to self-satisfaction. Self-satisfaction then leads to self-contentment, and self-contentment leads to self-realization. When self is realized, we are not bound and nothing can bind us. We can then taste the real nectar of freedom. Only then can we call ourselves really independent of externals. This brings us to our second question, which also answers the first better. How does Baba's Sealing on Desire program help in achieving independence from externals? So Swami has given 4 things that one has to put a ceiling on overuse, over desires. I think I got the combination wrong. Swami put food and money, and energy was later he used it, but I just put it like this. He says, do not waste money. Do not waste food. So it's Swami saying is also less luggage, more comfort makes travel a pleasure. Our life is a long journey, and we have the less luggage you may have on this long journey, which means to put a ceiling on the desires. We have to adopt. That's what we have to adopt today. Swami cautions: do not make the mistake of thinking that giving money is all that is needed. Do not give to others while allowing your own desires to continue to multiply. And that's why the Satya Sai organization is there. He says, use the money wisely for seva and for helping the poor. So these are the answers given by the members in the group. Do not waste food was the first thing Swami said. Avoid food waste. Food is God. Be aware of the quality of the food taken in. Eat only what you need. Do not be greedy. Don't take more than you can eat and waste the rest, because wasting food is a great sin. And then, and Swami goes on to add that the gross part of the food becomes the body, but a subtle part goes on to become your mind. So beware of the quality of the food that is taken in. And then the next, control the consumption of air, food, and water. Eat to live, not live to eat. Do Narayana Seva. Use food that is conserved. We can do Narayana Seva with it. Setting aside to share. And we awaken to a new reality that we didn't need that much in the first place. And when we share, we get more. So the fourth one was actually what he spoke about, energy, not to waste energy. Our physical, mental, and spiritual energy should never be wasted. Your Swami says, you might ask me, how are we wasting our energy? If you see bad things, your energy is wasted. Hearing bad things, speaking evil, thinking evil, and doing evil deeds wastes energy. Conserve your energy in these 5 areas. Avoid excessive talk. Thoughts are a spark of energy. So don't overthink. Don't keep on thinking so much and creating mental tension in yourself, anxiety in yourself. Do seva. Spend that energy doing seva. Associate yourself with like-minded people, people who want to do this kind of seva. Focus. Not listening, not seeing, listening, speaking, thinking, or doing wasteful activities, wasting energy like that. Occupy your mind fruitfully. So monkey mind needs to be occupied fruitfully to conserve energy. Use this energy, conserved energy, for sattvic work. The third one was Swami spoke about was time. Do not waste time. Time is the reason for man's birth and death. Time is the main factor for our growth. If we waste time, our lives will be wasted. Do not degrade time by spending it participating in unnecessary conversations and getting involved in others' personal matters. So the third instruction is don't waste time. Time waste is life waste. God himself is exalted as time. He is called Kalatita, all kinds of names that God is called, that he's time itself. You might be wondering how this is possible. Wasting time is wasting God, he says. And so Swami says, you might be wondering how this is possible. How are we wasting time? When you turn on the radio to listen to a certain program, whether you raise or lower the volume of the sound, as long as the radio is on, the current is used. Our mind is like the radio. Whether you talk with others or only think within yourself, you are consuming energy. So that's why he talks about that. Since it's always turned on, even if the volume is off, the thing is going on in the background, you are consuming energy. Instead of wasting that power, energy, or force in mental meandering, isn't it better to spend time in thinking good thoughts? Waste of time here. Here, Swami is actually connecting the waste of time and waste of energy If we are not following this path, we are wasting energy, he says. And wasting time like this, we are losing our memory power, intelligence, power of discrimination, and the power of justice. So, how do we not waste time? We discipline ourselves. In silence, we hear the voice of God. So, continue practicing silence and meditation. Avoid excessive use of social media. Manage one's monkey mind. Sanctify time by doing pure activities. The last one he says is money. Don't waste money. Indians consider money as the goddess Lakshmi. Do not misuse money. By doing so, you will become a slave to bad qualities, bad ideas, bad habits. God is wealth. Misuse of money is evil. Practice charity by gifting money. Use money wisely. Dana should be used to do Dana should be used to do dana, which will give you dhanya, which means it's like my own little 3Ds that I came up as I was doing the PowerPoint. It is dana is of course wealth. You give it as charity and you gain grace. So dana, and danya. Practice charity of gifting away money, food, clothes, house, etc. Instead of misusing money in extravagance, misuse of money is not only evil, but a sin as well. Spend only on essentials. Check if something you fancy is a need or a want. Use money for sacred purposes. Avoid new desires. Reduce existing ones and sublimate reduce the existing ones and sublimate the desires. Help the poor and the needy. Don't give indiscriminately. Be very careful. We saw in the papers about how some Palestine fund has been misused and diverted into various pockets. We've seen this before with the, I think, one Makna group or something. They all come up in the papers when our Auditor General does his reports, but nobody knows what happens, whether the pockets were emptied out and taken back or they remained with them, the people who steal this money, which is actually meant for good causes. So Swami wants us not to go waste money indiscriminately. Be very careful where you give it. So that's why it's good when we have an organization that we work with and we can very safely do programs with the name of Swami, and one doesn't tend to be indiscriminate that way. So ninth slide. So how does COD, Sealing on Desire, help to overcome dependence on externals? To answer this question on how COD leads to independence from externals, let us look at how practicing this helps us to overcome, like in practical terms. One has to think, who is the poorest man? He who has many desires is the poorest man in the world. Who is the richest man? He who has much satisfaction is the richest man. So the four components that Swami talks about in the term sealing on desires, as seen in the slides above, are curb on excessive talk, curb on excessive desire and expenses, curb on consumption of food, and check on the waste of energy. So in this picture, we see a dustbin full of food, good food actually, but wasted because it's probably old or something. So what do we learn by placing a ceiling on desire? We learn to share with others what one cannot consume, as well as the excess available we learn to give away. We lose the desire to present a full table. Sometimes at a lunch or dinner, when you're invited, you see that the whole buffet will be full of food. And at the end of the party, everybody's looking around for plastic boxes to take away when we've ordered too much food or cooked too much food and such a lot of waste. And then you go back and you put it in the fridge and you eat it over the next few days. So we learn to curb on that. that is basically a bit of a showing off, because so we lose that necessity to show off. Simple meals that are nutritious will do well as a grand buffet. We reduce over farming. We realize people, the greed and desire to sell much more produce. People over farm, and due to this, they use harm. They harm the environment by spraying insecticide, cruel farming methods to breed animals, big and small. We've heard of cattle farms and chicken farms and everything. um, Leads to environment pollution. And Swami warns us that advancement in science and technology has led to an imbalance in nature. This decline in human values have led to more and more natural disasters. So we learn to avoid overbuying and impulsive buying. We learn to eliminate junk food, and we are mindful of over packaging and undesirable additives. And so we even learn to cultivate our own food. So this is like on food, on how we can overcome the dependence on externals. For money, we lose the greed and desire to accumulate. Look to earning money by sattvic means is desirable. So one is careful and aware of how one earns and how one spends. Brother Nadraja had shared during the Sri Lanka conference on how, when the minute he got aware of how his company was getting, making their money, their millions, he immediately quit the job. And Swami probably was very happy with that, and he got a very good job right now. So, like the day after he got back from Sri Lanka, he started a new job. A man should only own as much wealth as is essential. Swami gives a comparison. It's like the size of his shoes. If the shoes are too loose, he cannot walk. If they are too tight, he cannot wear them. Money is like manure, he says. Piled up in one place, it fouls the air. Spread it wide, scatter it over fields, it rewards you with a bumper harvest. So too, when money is spent for promoting good works, it yields contentment and happiness in plenty. So, what do we learn from all this? Maybe we can do like taking packed lunches to work, plan trips outside when we need to go out, make it like instead of going out every single day on so many different errands, we plan the trips and go only like once or twice a week. We save on petrol and the tolls that we pay. We control tendency to indulge in unsavory habits, like shopping. People are excessive shopping. Every time you see a sale, you want to run into the shops. No, we there are people who depend on a drink of wine every night. One glass becomes two and becomes three, and those kind of things. You put a curb on it. Lose the necessity to impress by showing off. So basically, this is what the picture shows. That lady has gone shopping and she couldn't control herself, and she's bought a whole lot of things. Time. What do we gain? We lose the dependence on external aid, like handphones and TV and laptops and all the apps available on them these days. So we are so app-ridden in our life. Everything you need to have an app. So we lose that. We learn as we can control our time. Learn to select the quality of the reading material that you use. Realize time waste is life waste. We don't waste time in front of the TV watching programs that don't help you in any way. Don't waste time in front of mirrors, grooming yourself, or at salons. Grooming yourself. That's mostly for the ladies, I think. So these are things we tend to do, and we learn from by practicing the sealing on desire. Conservation of energy is also very important. So our physical, mental, and spiritual energy should never be wasted. What are the externals that we can get rid of? Reduce our dependence on house help. Learn to do what you can be done by oneself. reduce the effort to impress others. I came across an article by Stephen Covey. When you're dealing with a situation that feels stressful, there are three things you need to consider to ensure that you're not wasting your precious energy. What is in your direct control? What are those things or people you can influence? You can't directly control them, but you may be able to influence in some way. What is it about the situation that you cannot control or influence? Find out all these things. It is about what you can control and influence and what you cannot. So you don't get stressed. When you have identified what you can control or influence, then you can plan what to do next for those items, situation, or people you cannot control or influence. You may be concerned about it, but don't waste your precious energy worrying about it. So this story on the ceiling on desires, Swami tells us the story of Alexander the Great. Great kings and emperors who ruled the world, and they conquered many countries and accumulated boundless wealth. Alexander the Great, who conquered several parts of the world, could not take even a minuscule part of his wealth which he had accumulated. He had to leave this world with empty hands. And to demonstrate this truth, he instructed his ministers to take his dead body through the city with his hands left outside, keeping in a raised position towards the sky. The ministers were curious to know the reason for this strange request. He said, I have conquered many countries and accumulated much wealth. There is a vast army under my control, yet nothing is accompanying me at the time of my leaving this body. I'm going with empty hands, and it has to be demonstrated to all people. So he died at the age of 33 and was already a very powerful emperor at the time when he died. At least he got the jnana that this is what life is about. And this is the instruction he left to his people. So Swami says, sealing on desires is the way to Godhood. See no evil, see what is good. Hear no evil, hear what is good. Speak no evil, speak what is good. Think no evil, think what is good. Do no evil, do what is good. This is the way to God. So, and last of all, Swami, just something to share that Swami says. When you look at this, a tray of altar things, glass, silver glass, silver jewelry, are all actually made of this bar of silver. But when you look at it, it all looks so different. But at the basis of it, it is all the same silver that has become fashioned into a cup, a plate, a lamp, and this jewelry. So the underlying cause of this whole creation here is actually this. It just existed under the earth as silver. It remained in these forms for a while, and then went back. When it's all melted, it goes back to that original form. So that's what life is about. Swami says everybody is the same. Atma that came and took on a form for the 70, 80 years and then goes back as Atma. So it's just Maya, illusion, that is the span of our life. Swami says the end of wisdom is freedom. So the wisdom that we gain by placing sealing on desires, by learning, by understanding, will give you the freedom. And he says, the rest of the sentence is end of culture is perfection, end of knowledge is love, education is character. So that's the whole presentation today. Swami Chinmayanda says, one who has mastered his body, mind and intellect is the one who has reached the state of perfect freedom, Swarajya. The supreme sovereignty is thy real nature. Okay, that's all. Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sis Tara. Very comprehensively covered and looked at all the possible ways in which our vitality can be dissipated. That prevents us from realizing who we are. Very nice. Okay, any comments or anybody wants to ask any questions?
Sairam.
Sairam.
I think the sentence is quite interesting. We have to look at it at a different angle. I think so,
Mm.
Absolute desireless leads to perfect freedom,
Yeah.
or is it the other way around? Perfect freedom is actually desireless.
Oh,
Right? I
that's
think it's rather the other way around because living being, as long as you have not reached the enlightenment or self-realization, there will be desire, right? We can have sinning desire and all that, right? But we cannot have absolute desireless unless you have reached that level. Then only can have this desireless.
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah. But again, one point here is that when you're desiring something, that means you want something. But you remember, we mentioned, I think in the Sri Lanka, Dr. Reddy mentioned that happiness is equal to 1 if you have all the things in the world. But the bliss that you can get is 10 to the power 18, quintillion level of bliss. A person who is arriving at that blissful state, it is not that he is becoming desireless. The system doesn't make him desire anything more because he feels full. You see? So this fulfillment, that's why the word Guru Purnima, only the Guru can give you that Purnima, the fullness. If the fullness is not attained or achieved, then you keep on coming back to attain that fullness. So in our experiences in our life, the physical, mental, intellectual entrapments with the world is what keeps us engaged. But the teacher, like the last statement that Swami Chinmayanda mentioned, and all the teachers, and even Swamis, all the Vahinis and the Gita, when every Vahini is only stressing one thing, that the key essence of the Gita and the key essence of the Vahini is we need to transcend the physical, mental, intellectual, and reach the Atmic level. That Atmic level, from that point to see the world is how we should aspire ourselves to move forward. Naturally, it won't come to us like that. So therefore, the orientation programs for Sai Organization, to Sai Center, the 4 integral yoga, and all these things is to prepare our mind to move towards the 4th stage. Once we reach the 4th stage, then you find the entrapment is meaningless. You go to work, come, okay, you just do the yes, agreed, but it will not provide you that necessary excitement, enthusiasm to attain the higher level. Once we reach the higher level of desire, the quintillion level of bliss, not even quintillion, even fullness, that fullness, the mind won't come to a point even to want anything, which is why even that realization, to explain about what realization is, you need the mind. And no teacher has ever been able to explain what the realization is, because to explain that, you need the mind to explain. So transcending the mind, only you can achieve that higher state of consciousness and higher state of bliss. So in all our experiences that we are achieving and arriving, especially this core group who's here, we should try and every day look at something and see in the intensity of the desire earlier, which you had before. And now you look back at the same desire and see whether the book, and see the thing, object is attracting us or not. Like, for example, cars. Some people get excited about cars. Then all of illusion center. Now you look at cars again. Does the same cars excite you anymore? Like in my case, it was books. I used to be very possessed by books. Every time in the airport, everywhere I used to go, every time I must buy the book. It is necessary that I need to buy a book, and I read in the flight and all that. I'm a very voracious reader, so I read. But nowadays, when I look, I stare at the book. The books do not fascinate me to take it up. It's losing the fascination. Like that, we need to judge our own intensity and fascination for the things that we have, and see how we ourselves are moving away or pinching away from the world. The word is pinching away from the world. So that is the experience. That's what this whole thing. Otherwise this thing will become theoretical, isn't it? Respond, please.
Suresh.
Sai Ram, sister, it was very interesting, and total surrender to God is independent. Your thought, word, and feeling. It's really wonderful, everything that you told, and it's true. You practice, you know it is true. You really get the benefit of it.
Yes, true.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much, Sai Ram.
Billy?
Oh yeah, you mentioned about your, what you call, fascination or your interest for books. That reminds me of a story told by Dr. Vendaya. Dr. Vendaya is, a very well-known writer, spiritualist. He had written many books, and he got a huge library, So before he wrote the book on the Tao Te Ching, he also came across this, independence from external. So he told his secretary, I'm going on a, what you call, retreat for 1 year. I want you to get rid of all the books in my library. How you get it, up to you. Just get rid of his library. So I wonder, those of us who keep books, whether we would be able to do that or not. Because when you buy something, hey, this is my possession, I need it. We always think that you need it.
Yeah.
So Dr. Vendaya will say, when you are alive, practice dying, So when you die, you don't, whatever belongs to you does not belong to you anymore, and you would have no desire for that. So at the moment, I got some books in a bookshelf, okay? Sometimes my wife says, so many things, okay? Books, okay? So one day you're not around, what happened to these books? Maybe you should get rid of all these books. So maybe by doing so, then you'll be able to experience what is meant by independence from externals.
Yeah, we're doing that at home also. If we have to move into a smaller place, we can't take all the things we have here. Trying to get rid of it. I gave to my daughters. My mother gives her pots and pans and all to my children when they came. You all have your homes now. We go and use all these pots and pans. We don't want so much. That way, you're giving away things that we have collected over a whole in time. And I know one sister now in our centers who is now saying that she's like ready to go retire to Parthi. Last thing to get rid of will be the house, but everything in the house she's giving away to various people. So that kind of thing. So yeah, it is happening among our members.
Actually, Billy's that words practice dying, I think is a very
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you know how you can experience this practice dying when you literally go on this fasting and all that for 2-3 days, and you experience the drop in the energy level. You'll find that you won't even have the enthusiasm or the mood won't come to even think or want or yearn or any desire, So you'll find that you're very, very amazing. It's an experience that need to go through. Okay. Yeah. So, any other comments? Any other points?
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Well, wait. Let me rephrase this question. I think this particular point is a very valid session. How is it relevant in your life now, Billy? Sister Tara, would you explain? For example, you went to food, so let's take one by one, and then you put a checklist of things. So then it makes a lot of sense towards. See, for example, you started with food. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's take the food. Oh no, the discipline and all that. Yeah.
Maybe that picture, I think that we yeah.
Okay. Let's take food, for example. So in terms of consumption of food, this is one of the most important thing in everything is food. How much food is needed? What are we consuming? How frequently we are consuming? And whether it's a legitimate consumption or not. So these are things that we need to look at, isn't it?
Yes. In my case, I think definitely we cut off meats and stuff long time ago. Intoxicating drinks and all, never. So it's more like packaging. I look at packaging now. I don't buy over plastic, too many over packaged food. We try to go to the wet market to buy the vegetables rather than supermarkets where they're all packaged into different sizes and all that. So yeah, so that's one of the ways. Realizing that Annam is Brahma, which is something that we chant, a food prayer that we chant, not to waste. Never leave any on your plate when you finish your meal. Take only what is needed. Anyone else?
Yeah, the lady in the picture reminds me of something we should say, okay? So when you go shopping, want to buy something, you should ask yourself, okay, do I need it or do I want it?
Yeah. I put it up just now, yeah.
If you want it, don't buy. Okay, then you say, okay, I need it.
Yeah. Check if something you fancy is a need or a want. Somebody gave that in an answer. Yeah.
Let's say you need it. Then Swami said, then you must ask a second question. Okay, I need it. Can I afford it?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I can afford it. Then you must ask the third question. I need it, I can afford it, but can I live without it?
Can I live without it? Oh, okay.
If you can live without having it, don't buy it. So this is something we really need to practice about.
Yeah.
So sometimes I like to buy some gadgets, okay? Oh yeah, I think I need it. Okay.
Yeah.
But can I live without it? Okay, let me think about it. So it's not that something easy to develop. You need to develop the discipline on that.
3-point check that you must do, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also the consumption of food, because sometimes is it so necessary that we need to eat so much of rice, or is it so necessary because it's tasty, because it's so those kind of things also need to be looked at, isn't it? When I'm just looking at food now, because I'm wondering, what do you all think?
Tara, I have a question.
Yeah.
Tara?
Yes. Yeah.
You see, this is regarding variety of food that is served. Do you consider that excessive?
Depends on the occasion and it's excessive if it's like one meal you're sitting every day for your own consumption. If you have so many variety, do we need that variety? Like Brother Suresh just asked, isn't it a waste to just, when you can have a one dish or maybe 1 and 2 dish? Why go for the variety? Isn't it just our taste buds that are demanding that variety?
Because sometimes we have family members, supposing you have family members with you, you may be a person who's more accustomed to simple food.
Yeah.
If you have family members who suddenly come and say, oh, they prefer something that is more of a variety. So you are in a quandary at that time, you see, prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the thing, you see. So you have your principles of being, making sure your desires are limited, you see. And you don't want to minimize on all this wastage. And
I guess that kind of situation you have to work on. I mean, see who is bringing it. If you can tell them not to bring any more, this one time is okay. Something like that is okay, I guess.
Or you may have, or is that you have to prepare, for example, you see, they are coming, then you need to prepare more variety. So, that is the thing, you see. So you are left in that kind of a situation. So that is the thing. That also, it has also got a role, you see. So it makes things difficult for us, right?
As a housewife, you need to cater to the various people.
Right. Correct.
True. Yeah.
Also, can one be aware of the quality of the food also? Because nowadays, as you all know, vegetables and the fruits also, they get pumped by the insecticides and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of contamination is taking place.
Yeah.
So that's also another very big area of.
organic farming and organic foods to be looked at. Yeah.
On the quantity of food that you take, like Suresh was mentioning, how much rice should you take? So normally I make it a point while lunch and dinner, okay, I must make sure that I must not leave a single grain of rice on the plate. I kind of okay, I think this should be sufficient. Otherwise, there could be some leftover which I have to throw it. This will be wastage. So this is something which I used to tell my children. Okay, make sure not one grain of rice should be on the plate.
Should not be wasted. Yeah.
Should not be wasted.
Also, I learned that when Sister Vimala Ayavu had gone to spend 6 months at Anantapur campus, she was lecturing there for a while. She came back and she said one thing she learned over there is, like, not even the chili, that the dry chili that we fry and put into the curries. The matron there doesn't even allow that chili to be wasted. You eat that up, she said. They tell the students and the teachers who are in the canteen, who's going to eat that, finish that off also. So nothing is left on the plate, not even a curry leaf or a dry chili. That is, all of it is eaten. So yeah.
Also, I think one more thing is that, the quality, the amount that we are consuming. Actually, often we acclimatize ourselves to a certain amount, and then we feel that is the amount that we need to achieve in order to feel full. Then you come out of the tables. So I think those are sometimes the habits that does not make sense, because it's not necessary that it can be consumed like that. I'll tell you a good example will be in Mauritius. The diabetic rate in Mauritius is 1 in 2. 1 in 2. That means 50% of the population. So yeah, very high. So I was in Mauritius for some time. So I went for this conference. The scientists all were talking and all that kind of stuff. And they're looking at the gene and all that. Then I went to give a talk in the schools, secondary schools. Then the principal and everybody invited me, and then we went down to the dining table, canteen table, and we were served food. So I saw the boys all queuing up for food. And then this boy was taking one whole plate of huge amounts of food, rice. So I thought, I was watching that scene. I was thinking that he's going to come back and take from that plate and serve his friends who were also sitting in the table. Suddenly I realized he himself is consuming that. Then I asked, you mean to say that boy will take? They said, yeah, most people will eat like that. Hey guys, you're wasting your time at the scientific conference on diabetic. This is the real concept. This is the real reason why are you wasting your time on gene therapy and all that? You need to cut it down. And the reason why they are consuming such high amounts is because apparently these are fourth generation people. First generation people were brought from India to cut in the sugarcane fields. So on working in the fields, and they had to eat this much of rice at that time. But basically now they are no more working in the fields, but the food intake is the same. So you see, this is how we are mentally programming ourselves to think that we need this much and we need this much, which is sometimes not true.
Yeah, for the time.
So that is the.
Yeah.
Yes. Please carry on. No, finish it.
No, I mean, that kind of consumption, like in the estates also, when we were children, we lived in the estate, and we used to watch how they eat. People who worked and all, they can take a whole lot of rice and eat, but we don't need that much rice now. We're not walking that much. We're not doing any, that kind of exercise to expend that energy that you gain from that. So, yeah.
So I think one of the inspiration that we can gain is from Bhagavan Baba, how he eats the food. If you look at the plate where he eats, he just pecks the food, just touch a bit. I always used to. Anyway, so that's so. So we need to be conscious about the quality. So next time we are sitting in the plate of food, we need to be mindful. Mindful eating is not about mindfully consuming. Is to also be mindful to ask this: is it necessary? Is this much is okay? And all that. And then also we have to get up 1/4 empty, right? When it's all full, your stomach must still feel wanting, still empty and still wanting to eat. And then you get up from the table, or you'll feel good about it, because you should not get the stomach to be full. So this is the actual basis of refining our our food habits also basically under the subject of do not waste food. Okay, and then the eat to live, not to live to eat. Yeah, okay. This is again something that we got to check and see whether how are we doing our life. Then Narayana Seva is a service part. We are helping, getting involved in those activities. Okay. Okay, avoid the next part. Avoid excessive talk. Okay, this one.
This is under wasting energy, talking and wasting energy, basically. Too much talk.
No, even too much talk. How do we know that we are talking too much? Because a person who talks a lot may not even realize that they're talking, because they think that everything is necessary,
Yeah. So there's also a 3-point check on the
exaggerate too much.
exaggerate and gossip, basically, unnecessary gossip. So there's also a 3-point check that they say, isn't it? See if it is necessary. Does it help if you're sharing that info? And what?
Yeah. I remember Swami said something. This is very powerful. Swami said, "Does your speech improve the silence?"
Silence. That's right.
Does your speech? That means the word that you're using, does it improve the silence? That means, is it so necessary? Is it so essential? Is it so beneficial? Is it all these things must be analyzed before we even speak. Yeah, okay. And then thoughts. This is again another big area where sometimes we have so many thoughts, overwhelming thoughts, that will lead to complications of the mind, which was a lot of now we are having many suffering from mental distress, and all that is because of overwhelming thoughts. So what Swami is talking like this is, now many are suffering, at this point of time, cannot sleep in the night, worried, anxious, all this is.
And that also leads to loss of memory and loss of, Swami says, in the points I put in there just now.
Yeah.
Unnecessary thinking causes loss of memory.
Any response?
Just to go back one more point, the excessive talk. Of course, Swami did say will lead to dementia. We talk too much. Yeah. But we also should realize that excessive talk is also ego. Justification, Sometimes you talk one thing, people can talk 10 things, So it's ego and justification also.
Yeah. And one good way of reducing this is that if you fast, or if you don't eat food eat little or reduce your food, you won't have energy to even speak or think, You won't even have energy to think, leave alone speak. So then when it goes down to such level, you find that excessive talk is coming from somewhere, excessive energy. It's also this excessive food that you intake and all that. So silence, continuous silence, experiencing all that is also one part of our sadhana also. Which means spiritual people should enjoy solitude, not loneliness.